Welcome everyone to Initiative Africa. This week we showcase groundbreaking innovations and transformative initiatives reshaping norms and creating new opportunities across the continent. Today we delve into Africa's progress in healthcare with a special guest, a visionary in medical insurance. Let's explore how one entrepreneur is connecting the diaspora and their loved ones through innovative health solutions. But first, here are the top stories. Taking a stand for better healthcare in Africa, Bola, Bardet, a child of the diaspora and a graduate of a prestigious business school, has dedicated herself to improving the well-being of Africans. She is the creator of an insurance concept designed for the diaspora and their families back home. Today, she shares her story with us.
Susu, a digital health service with a mission to bring affordable and accessible health solutions to the people of Africa.
Pour le peuple africain.
Cameroon makes significant strides in the fight against river blindness thanks to the contributions of African scientific expertise.
There are few areas where it's been diagnosed. Just in the central and coastal regions where epidemiological tests have shown rates to be higher than average.
And on the shores of Congo, the NGO Renatura has teamed up with fishermen to protect endangered sea turtles, ancient guardians of our oceans.
As the nets are actually large meshes, the turtles are easily captured. Then, of course, we release them and call Renatura for that, and they make sure the turtles are released.
Cameroon has made remarkable progress in the fight against onchocerciasis or river blindness. Thanks to the widespread use of mectizan treatments since 2022, the disease is being pushed back. Local research efforts and strong public policies have played a pivotal role in this success. While challenges remain, including concerns about treatment resistance, the impact of this campaign is undeniable. For a closer look at how Cameroon is tackling this long-standing health burden, here's a report by our correspondent Abubakar Siddiq Munchili. Registered in Cameroon as a national public health problem, onchocerciasis, also called river blindness, is in the process of disappearing in the country. Onchocerciasis is an eye infection, a parasitic disease caused by a worm and transmitted by the bite of a black fly.
There are few areas where it's been diagnosed. Just in the central and coastal regions where epidemiological tests have shown rates to be higher than average.
Slightly high prevalence, which remains, just like there's still onchocerciasis today in Cameroon, the memory of a painful past, of a disease that has wreaked havoc and decimated populations.
Il y avait de la souffrance avec l'onchocercose dans les foyers endémiques.
The endemic cluster of onchocerciasis was widespread in places such as Bafia, Biomen, Kiki, Ngoboba, and Esura. There were young girls whose skin had been ravaged by the disease, and young men who had been disfigured with what's known as leopard skin on their limbs.
In
Mbam, some victims had been blinded, and 2 or 3 children suffering from epilepsy as a result of being infected.
After the experiences of many years of aerial dropping of insecticides along streams and rivers in endemic areas to kill the causative agents of the pathology, the fight on the field has been revolutionized with the arrival of community-based treatment with ivermectin. This new approach, less expensive than the first, implemented through many initiated projects, has been set since several years in Cameroon within the framework of the African Programme to fight against onchocerciasis, thanks to the determination of the public authorities and a pool of well-engaged actors.
We're lucky in Cameroon that we are helped by NGDOs. There are 4 in the country now.
Ivermectin, known as mectizan, taken as a single oral dose given free of charge, is effective. But in some areas of the country, the effect of the drug on some patients has turned out to be rather dramatic.
On a eu des patients qui ont eu de céphalées sévères.
We've seen patients with very severe headaches, muscle pain, severe joint pains that could keep the patient bedridden for a week or more.
Qui pouvaient clouer le malade au lit pendant une semaine, voire plus.
The victim is immobilized and in some cases lapsed into a coma after being treated, although we weren't sure why this occurred.
This is what prompted this Cameroonian researcher and his team from the African Center for Research on Filariasis and other tropical diseases to carry out a great deal of research work. The results showed that treatment for river blindness had no chance of success for these patients due to the presence of loa or African eyeworms. This distinct filariasis, when it affects a patient with river blindness, makes ivermectin or mectizan impossible to administer, not without the pain and serious side effects. It could even put carriers of both filariasis in danger of death.
Aucun médicament n'a véritablement marché.
But none really worked on the loiasis.
Jusqu'au moment où nous avons pensé qu'on pouvait tester.
Then scientists thought testing for loiasis to identify people with high rates of the disease to stop them being treated with mectizan.
Les soustraire du traitement par le mectizan.
This would allow treating the rest of the population safely, without the side effects.
The loascope, a miniaturized microscope coupled with a telephone, has been developed and allows in 3 minutes to determine the parasitic load of loa. With this device, several hundred thousands of people have been tested and then treated in many health districts in Cameroon. This new strategy is presented not only as an effective solution, but very precious in reassuring the populations and dissuading all those who have developed fear about taking mectizan. Loiasis, present in Cameroon in onchocerciasis endemic areas, is also present in some countries of the Central African sub-region and even in West Africa, according to the African Center for Research on Filariasis and other tropical diseases. Professor Joseph Camino intends, with the help of many partners involved in the fight against onchocerciasis on the African continent, to share this experience, which has worked in Cameroon with other countries. And let's continue our conversation about access to healthcare with Bola Bardet. Originally from Benin, she was driven by a personal loss to change the narrative around healthcare for the diaspora. Through her initiative, she's created innovative medical service packages that allow families to access care and treatment directly in Africa. This vision for the future is already making waves. Bola Bardet shares more about her journey with Laurence Strass and Thierry Schiller.
Bola Bardet, welcome to Initiative Africa. You run a rather peculiar insurance company. How would you describe it?
Bonjour Laurence. Donc je dirige Soussou.
Hi Laurence, yes, I run Soussou, a digital health service with a mission to bring affordable and accessible health solutions to the people of Africa. At Soussou, we offer solutions designed for people with diabetes, high blood pressure, and pregnant women who are often a vulnerable population with very limited access to health care, and yet they desperately need it. And so we provide them with a combination of curative and preventive care from our digital platform to improve follow-up and health monitoring. In addition, and most importantly, we ask their relatives who are based abroad, in other words, the African diaspora, to finance or co-finance these services on behalf of one or several beneficiaries in their country of origin.
These products don't exist in Africa?
Non. Alors on est vraiment innovateur.
No, they don't. We are really innovative in what we do. I mean, in our approach, in both the service itself and its financing. So, for example, in terms of service, it's really a package of medical services we're going to offer. For pregnant women, it will be a set of prenatal and postnatal consultations, midwives' visit at home, checkups and ultrasounds. And all this will be packaged. On top of that, they will have access to articles through our application and prevention videos on pregnancy. And finally, they have access to a chat room where they can ask any questions they may have, and a team of experts will answer to them. So that's the service aspect. And the funding side, we're also innovative because we rely on the financial manna from the African diaspora. More than 100 billion euros are sent every year by the diaspora to their relatives back home, including 20 billion dedicated to healthcare. So we count on these 20 billion euros to provide their relatives with quality healthcare and at the same time provide people in the diaspora with a guarantee that their money is being used wisely.
Which insurance products are most popular with your customers? Which ones are the most successful?
Alors, donc, comme je disais, on propose aujourd'hui 2 types de bouquets de santé.
Today we offer 2 types of health packages. We have a maternity package to monitor pregnant women. We have a chronic illness package, so it's diabetes and hypertension. And we also offer insurance as a broker in partnership with major insurers in the field. That I have not mentioned. I think I don't have the right to mention them. And the product that works best in terms of the insurance, it's a product called Susu Vital, an essential insurance policy that provides coverage of around 1,500 euros per year. So that's about 1 million CFA francs a year, covering almost all services, including consultations, hospitalization, and everything optical and dental. So it's really complete insurance that covers a person's essential needs, called Susu Vital.
If I am an African man or woman with no family members in the diaspora and want to subscribe to your offer, is it possible today?
It's now possible. At first it wasn't. Why? Because it was my personal story that inspired the creation of Susu. What you need to know is that I'm from the diaspora. I'm originally from Benin with a French nationality. And unfortunately, 5 years ago, I lost someone close to me, my father, who lived in Benin. And it was as a result of this that I imagined Susu. And the focus at the very beginning was quite diaspora-centered, and we were really only proposing to people in the diaspora to subscribe on behalf of relatives based in their country of origin. We realized that our service could also be of interest to local people who wanted to finance it themselves or with the help of relatives. So we recently started offering our services locally in our present countries, Côte d'Ivoire, Senegal, and Cameroon.
What are the key elements that have contributed to the growth of your company today? Is it this interaction with local health services or the involvement of the diaspora?
On l'attribue au fait qu'on résout
Well, we attribute this to the fact that we are solving several problems in the diaspora and locally. So the first problem locally is that the penetration rate of health insurance is very low. That means 3%, which means that 97% of the population does not have access to an insurance solution to pay for their health expenses and must pay out of their own pockets. So that's the first problem we are solving by providing access to insurance and other solutions to these people. In addition, we have a target population, vulnerable people, pregnant women, and people with chronic diseases. These people are even more excluded from the insurance system. They are not insurable. Unfortunately, insurers don't want them, and on top of that, they are left on their own in their healthcare journey. They don't have any answers to their basic questions about how to live better with their condition, what diet to follow, how to practice sports, and when you have diabetes, pregnant, and so on. So we provide solutions to all these problems. First of all, we give them a kind of coverage which is an alternative to insurance to help them pay for the expenses related to their medical conditions. And on top of that, we provide them with preventive advice and support with people who are there to answer questions that may arise daily. So that's the problem we're tackling locally. The second problem, which is related but also extremely important, is finance, because the big barrier to quality healthcare on the continent is that people cannot afford to pay for their health expenses. And we bring this innovation which allows relatives who have the financial means to do so to co-finance these needs with the beneficiaries.
Where does the investment in Susu come from? I saw that you had a fundraiser this year. What impact did it have on Susu's activities?
Indeed, we raised funds from private investors at the start and also from BPI France, the French government's investment bank, which supports startups and us. So we are delighted with this support. This money was significant in our development because at the beginning we started on a tiny scale in a single country, Côte d'Ivoire. And now with this money we have been able to open two additional countries, Senegal and Cameroon, which we opened a few months ago.
Le Sénégal et le Cameroun qu'on a ouvert récemment, il y a quelques mois.
And in addition to that, it allowed us to finance the acquisition, in other words, marketing to create brand awareness in our existing markets where we are present and set up B2B partnerships with local tech insurance players to improve the distribution and our operations. There's also the very important tech side. It has allowed us to continue to develop and enrich our technological platform, which is really at the heart of the system because it helps us to follow the beneficiary's care pathway. We will have an app where the beneficiary can subscribe to the service. Again, he or she has access to services, to preventive advice, and also has access to the chat. All of this was developed internally at Susu, and our funding made it possible.
Et le financement qu'on a reçu a permis de le faire.
Are you seeking to boost your business in Africa and Europe? Increase your visibility with Business Frequency thanks to our network of national television channels in more than 40 countries. Every week, more than 100 broadcasts across Africa, the Indian Ocean and Europe. Don't miss this unique opportunity. Contact us now and put your brand into the spotlight.
Welcome back to the second half of Initiative Africa. The Congolese coast is a vital habitat for sea turtles, hosting 4 of the 7 species found worldwide. Despite their ancient origins dating back over 150 million years, these majestic creatures face threats from poaching and harmful fishing practices. Thankfully, since 2005, the local NGO Renatura has been rescuing turtles and striking innovative agreements with fishermen to protect them. Our journalists Jean-David Miamli and Bruce Kinhu take us to the Bay of Loango near Pointe-Noire, where these efforts of rescuing sea turtles caught in the nets come to life. Watch.
We are on the beach of Loango near Pointe-Noire, and this is a sea turtle known as the green turtle. It was accidentally caught in the fishermen nets. Before being released at sea, employees of the Renatura NGO, who have the mission of the protection of marine turtles in Congo, take the measurements of this marine species. Exhausted, the sea turtle struggles to move. The 50 meters that separate the sea turtle from the sea seem endless for the poor animal. Fortunately, Jean-Félix Chibinda from Renatura is there to give the animal a nudge to find the sea at last, an operation that has become quite common for this employee of Renatura NGO.
Last week I had at least 12 in my nets, of which 3 were dead. This week I only had 2, including a dead one again. During the month we can get 50, more or less. Sometimes less than 10, depending on the catch of the fishermen.
For the fishermen, the capture of sea turtles is quite simply accidental.
We want to catch fish, and during the sardinette, we fish right here on the shore. But here on the shore, it's where the turtles come out of the water to eat the grasses and the fish, all that, you know, but mostly grass. When they arrive, there are nets and they get caught. As the nets are actually large meshes, the turtles are easily captured. Then, of course, we release them and call Renatura for that, and they make sure the turtles are released.
Renatura is an NGO under Congolese law created in 2005. It has signed partnerships with the inhabitants of Loango Beach. They compensate for any damage caused by the capture of sea turtles, including tearing of nets, compensations that actually delight the fishermen.
When we accidentally catch sea turtles, our nets are damaged, and then we call Renatura, who compensate us by replacing the nets because of the damage caused by the turtles. So it's all good. In fact, when we started releasing turtles all over the Congolese coast, we signed an agreement with the fishermen. The agreement stipulates we should provide the material to mend the nets that have been ripped by the sea turtles. So when a fisherman lets us know when he catches a turtle, our agent, who is permanently in the area, looks at the damage to the nets. We then estimate the extent of the damage caused, and our agent then calculates the number of fishing spools to give to the fisherman. The fisherman can then come to us to receive the spools that allow him to repair the damage caused by the turtles.
Interestingly, the Congolese coasts are very hospitable to sea turtles due to the abundance of nutrients such as algae, mollusks, shrimps, and fish, among others, as well as their rocky habitat. A real nursery for marine turtles, which already houses 4 out of the 7 species of marine turtles listed in the world.
In fact, the Congo is home to 4 of the 7 species of marine turtles that exist worldwide. And all year round in our waters there's a constant stream of the various species. Sea turtles are migratory, which means they travel long distances between their breeding grounds and their feeding waters. The Bay of Loango, where we are right now, is where green turtles spend most of their time in their juvenile stage, mainly to feed. There are also leatherback turtles, and this is the world's #1 site right now that's home to so many leatherbacks. It used to be in French Guiana, but today the trend's reversed. It's not a fairy tale, you know. Congo is home to many sea turtles that come here either to feed or to breed, and that is particularly related to the wealth of biodiversity, the marine biodiversity that can be found here and which is part of their food chain. Another reason is the nature of the beaches around the Congolese coast, which easily allow turtles to climb and then nest and reproduce here.
Yet, a threat looms on the horizon. The number of captures of turtles that come to the Congolese coast continues to decrease. From thousands, 5 years ago it has averaged 300 in recent years. Perhaps the industrial activities with oil exploitation and the extension of the port of Pointe-Noire have something to do with it.
We now return to our guest Bola Bardet, who introduces us to Susu, her trailblazing insurance fintech. Starting with just 20 policyholders and 2 employees, Susu has grown to serve Côte d'Ivoire, Senegal, Cameroon and the DRC with a team of 50 employees. This remarkable success has attracted institutional investors, including the European Union and the African Development Bank, which have collectively provided €4 million in funding. Bola Bardet shares the strategies and determination behind this incredible achievement.
Bola Bardet, when did you notice these gaps in the health and social coverage of people from the diaspora and their relatives in Africa?
Ce qu'il faut savoir, c'est que je ne viens pas du domaine de la santé.
You need to know that I don't come from a health or insurance background. I unfortunately fell into it through a personal tragedy that I experienced. Well, my father, who died at age 65, had high blood pressure in Benin at the time. He had no insurance to cover his health needs. And on top of that, as I was saying, he was completely on his own regarding the basic issues that could help him live better with his condition.
Avec sa condition.
And so it was his death that made me conscious of the problem, especially since I myself, a member of the diaspora, could not help him. And I realized that I could have sent money through money transfer channels, but that money would not have solved the problem, which was a problem of access to quality healthcare for him. That's how the idea of Susu came about, and I became aware of the local health challenges in our countries, and the challenges that the diaspora also has in caring for their loved ones.
But it took some courage because you studied at HEC Business School, you had a well-established finance career and worked in private banking. How did you find the resources to set up this company?
It was obvious from my story because my father was dear to me, so for me the question didn't even arise. Besides that, indeed, I had already been an entrepreneur for a few years. I had created a consulting company and I know what entrepreneurship is.
Dans le domaine du conseil, donc je sais ce que c'est que l'entrepreneuriat, je savais.
I knew when I started the Susu adventure that even if the level of challenge was not the same, Susu is much more challenging than anything I've ever done before in terms of entrepreneurship.
En matière d'entrepreneuriat.
How did your training and professional experience help you kickstart this project?
Je suis diplômée d'une école de commerce.
I graduated from a business school, a very generalist course. You learn about all the different aspects of entrepreneurship, including management, finance, economics, human resources, marketing and sales.
Donc voilà, j'avais ce background au moins technique qui m'a permis.
I had at least a technical background that allowed me to start from scratch.
Et en plus de ça, comme je disais, en tant qu'entrepreneur.
On top of that, as an entrepreneur, you know how to manage to get by. I think it's an ability that I have inside me and which has enabled me to, well, say, to find solutions to the problems that have arisen up to now.
Trouver des solutions aux problèmes qui se sont posés jusque-là.
How do you see Susu's partnerships with traditional insurers? Are they interested in this project?
Tout à fait. Susu, pour eux, est une vraie aubaine.
Absolutely. Susu is a real godsend for them because it allows them to increase their turnover, which is relatively small. Again, the insurance covers only 3% of the population. Through Susu, they will look for market share outside the country, since it is financed by people who live outside the country. It gives them a guarantee that their funds will be collected. A guarantee they do not have when dealing directly with individuals, who often come from the informal sector, so they don't necessarily have pay slips or an address. Susu is therefore a real opportunity for them to generate a turnover from clients who may be a little more solvent than the clients they usually have.
You spent your youth in Benin, but you were born in France. Today, you go back to Africa as an entrepreneur. Is it challenging to come back to the continent with a new experience from the West and to find Africa with a healthcare system that may not have evolved much?
C'est très challengeant. Effectivement, aujourd'hui, Susu.
It is very challenging. Indeed, today, Susu, we have one foot in Europe because we address the African diaspora there, and one foot in Africa. It allows us to see the gap that exists in terms of support for entrepreneurs between France and Africa.
Entre la France et l'Afrique. La France, je disais qu'on était soutenu par la BPI.
In France, I said that BPI France supported us. In Africa, we're not supported by anyone. And also we have important infrastructure issues because infrastructure is fundamental, the basic ingredient for an entrepreneur. So we have challenges that we have to deal with every day. From Paris, we have to deal with power cuts and power outages, things that seem relatively trivial to us in Europe at the moment, but are realities that an entrepreneur has to deal with daily in the field. So these are additional difficulties that come on top of the inherent problem of any entrepreneur. So I realize this daily. And what about the health system? Yes, I realize this all the more because when you live in France, a country with a formidable health system, you can measure the gap between the two, which is abysmal. This health system is that of African countries. I was in Benin this summer with my son who is ill. I realized how difficult it was to provide him with primary care between the interminable waiting times in hospitals and clinics. And the difficulty of finding quality staff who have empathy and respond to clients' needs. These are things we're trying to correct at our small level. We hope to grow as we go along and to have a lot of support to achieve our mission.
That's it for today's edition of Initiative Africa. Don't miss Bola Bardet's full interview along with all our episodes on our website africaonair.com. Stay connected with us on social media, like, share and comment using the hashtag Initiative Africa. Join us next week, same time, same channel, for another edition of Business Africa. Have a fantastic week, and until then, goodbye.